Good evening and welcome to Mountain Bears on the Psychic Coffee Shop. I'm Aeson, and of course I'm sitting down with the techy-ish, cubbiest, with Moses. Techy Joe, how are you, darling?
I'm doing well. How are you this evening?
Evil. Totally evil. Got a good bit of sleep finally. Like, my sleep pattern has been screwed, so maybe this is what I need to reset so that I can at least get my life together.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, it's been a mess. So, hey, Brenda. But yeah, no, it's been wild between the storms and the low pressure centers, and everyone's sinuses are screwed, and everyone seems to be getting sick.
Right.
Oh, it's been a lot.
Between like December
point in January, which, by the way, January is almost over. In case y'all missed it, like it's almost over.
Right.
Like it's crazy.
It's insane. Of course, and I was looking back and I love the Facebook numbers, and it shows that like January is consistently insane for us. Last year we were sick at the beginning of the year, which put us all behind.
Oh, that was a whole, like, that wasn't even just sick. That was just a whole mess of like December to January. Like, we're doing much better than then.
Right.
Like, this is like orders of magnitude better than last year.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it's well, and some of it is like you get into the holidays or you get up to the holidays and everyone's really communicative,
right?
Professionally and stuff, and then you go into the holiday period and everyone's taking vacation and taking holiday trips and doing the things and dealing with kids and so some stuff gets put off until after the new year.
Right.
And then you have the people who like consciously thought that way, like, look, like, let me hold off on starting anything new until we get in the new year.
Right.
And then they show up like ready to go.
Right.
And so you get this kind of choke point. Where I'm one human being, I can only do so much.
Right.
Everyone shows up at once, like the people trying to finish up stuff that was kind of left hanging, and then everyone trying to like get a jump on the new year and start something totally new.
Right.
And so it's like, one moment, please. One moment, please. Becomes kind of the refrain of January.
Well, and it's just like, here we go. Let's just like lock and load. Let's get this through. And it's like, can we just stop?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, we get there, and it's usually about this point that like you get all the fires tamped down, and it's kind of like, okay, we got a game plan now. So that's mostly where we've been. I give people a lot of credit for like this January. Like it seemed like most people kind of came through in a nice, orderly fashion for me.
Right.
Like, was I stressed? Yes. Was it a little choky? Yes. But it wasn't like everyone showed up on like January 5th with like, here's everything you've needed. Here's everything I want to do this year. Here's everything that, like I have had it happen in other years.
Right.
Where it's just like, like the one day where it's just like my head's going to explode.
Right.
Just like that's too many news.
Well, right. And then we have my side of it where, networks are launching, projects are either coming to a close or I'm done. And what I mean by that is, oh, hi, Maria, welcome back. And it's just like, no, I'm not playing these games. And that's when they start seeing corporate Aeson, which fucks with their heads so much.
It can.
And what I mean by that is I think they're used to the nice, calm, relaxing Aeson that is like, doop, 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 oh, 18 hours, not a problem. Doop, 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 doop. Oh, no big deal. We can work through this network outage. Doop, doop. And then it's like, look, motherfucker, you have 24 hours to fix my shit, or I will blow you off this planet.
Yeah, it's kind of like first to fourth Aeson, in like gear change. Yeah. Yeah, two and like if you're looking for gears 2 and 3 on Aeson, let me tell you, those got stripped out sometime a long time ago.
Right.
It's just kind of like first gear, fourth gear. Like that's all you got. It's just shift pattern.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. It's been a minute since I've driven a 5-speed. Okay. Like at least I realized what I just did. One, you're never supposed to do that. Don't ever move your car from first to fourth. Right. I mean, unless you're like parked and you're not doing anything. And that clutch is in and you're holding the brake, and then you can do that. But yeah, no, it's a hard shift. It's a hard shift.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, but no, like there's at least, and someone told me, "Oh, you've got split personalities." No, I've got split modes of energy. I'm either helping client,
and there's a point in which it's like right now the important thing is not, and I think we all do this to a degree, is recognizing when it shifts from like, okay, I'm here, I don't have any like super pressing things. And when it's like, no, really, you've got 5 minutes.
Right.
You've already used 2 of them. In the next 3 minutes, I need you to very concisely tell me what you need and get out of the way.
Right.
Like you, and for my clients, I always talk about triaging. It is because there's also that same kind of like Joe's really talkative and Joe will, have long conversations. And I do, and I like having that relationship with my clients. Right. It's really great. We identify needs and things that are bugging them, and things that like I can actually do something about.
Right.
Like those conversations lead to other things. But there are those moments where, like I do have that moment where like clients come to me and they're like, I've been like messaging you for 2 days, and it's like, I'm dealing with so much right now. I read your problem. I read your email. I saw your message. I listened to your voicemail. I understand that right now this is very important to you. But right now I have a bigger dumpster fire than like the candle gone rogue that you're dealing with.
Right.
That like it's important and we'll get to it. But in orders of magnitude, I've had to triage it and go, that can wait.
Right.
Like it's important, it'll get handled, but I've already assessed the situation.
Right.
You're annoyed.
Right.
Like your problem is annoying, and I understand we need to fix that. I have someone who's like not able to work, they're not able to sell product, they're not able to. That takes priority. I've got to help them first.
But with me, I think that and here's the problem. I think that they get they see advisor Aeson, and advisor Aeson is very different.
Oh yeah.
Because before corporate Aeson.
Well, and those are 2 different modalities. Like corporate Aeson showing up to advise clients on the network or in private. That's not a good Aeson to have. No. Like the situation in which you're getting corporate Aeson when you call a network means something's gone horribly wrong.
Well, no, like people get corporate Aeson on the network, but that's because of 3 reasons. First reason is you're asking me business. You're in there, you're wanting me to look at marketing and design and look at launch dates for projects and advise you on micrometer computer stuff and social media and graphic design and color inflection and product packaging. Like I've done all that in psychic role, but that's more life coach, business coach role. And I can do that, and I can sit in that board meeting, and I can go through and understand numbers and ratios and data points, and they forget I have these skills. Like they forget Aeson had a corporate life, and has a corporate life.
Oh yeah. Which is weird for let's stop for a second and point out that is sometimes the weirdness within like the metaphysical psychic world is because now there are some your favorite author, we love her dearly, she created the whole book, literally wrote the book on how to run a psychic business.
Corey.
And her name escapes me right now.
Corey,
thank you. She is someone else that has done the same thing. Like, she had a very strong, demanding corporate career, did all the business, and then came to the metaphysical, the readings and working with clients and all that. And so she could actually literally write the book on how to run a psychic business. But for many, and the reason that the need for that book existed, was they typically, a lot of people do a transition, and it's a softer transition. Like they were daycare workers, and then they went metaphysical. They were, they were doing, and I don't want to call it like soft work or whatever. Like, I'm trying to find a good word for it, but they were in more nurturing, caring, customer service fields, and were like, they were, they did a sideways shift, just a little, versus those who came out of corporate, and then did a total, like, this wasn't just a shift, this was a total change in direction, to come over and get into doing readings and offering life advice and all those things. And it is a different skill set.
It is.
And sometimes you do see people really struggle to make that transition, because there's an edginess on the corporate side that can sometimes, for some people, translate really badly. So you do see some people that try to make that shift, that corporate to advisor, and it doesn't go well. Usually they implode quickly. If they can't go, okay, you got to take that edge off. Like, whatever you got to do, you got to take that edge off. Because you can't have this very strong corporate interaction, with every client. Like, that's not what they need to hear. That's not how they need to be dealt with. That's not how they need to be talked to. It doesn't resonate. Like, for most, it's not going to resonate. Is what it seems. Is that, they're looking for more support, not to just be told what to do. So
but there's like so many things that tie into the psychic business. There is the reader side, which, and I love being just the talent. Meaning, I can go do readings all day. I don't have to look at spreadsheets. I don't have to look at marketing plans. I can close my eyes, stick my fingers in and go, la 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 la. Oh, TikTok's going down. Oh goodness, la la la, and move on. Okay, but if I have to put on a suit and tie, or even a dress shirt, you're in trouble. Because you will see Aeson, Miranda Priestley style, and going, no. Oh, flowers. That's so, February. Oh, Valentine's Day, soulmate readings. Oh, so innovative. Let me get a coffee because I'm going to fall asleep.
Well, and it is a whiplash moment, because that's not what they expect from the advisor Aeson.
No, they don't.
So when they interact with that, it's kind of like, wait, what? Wait, what? But it is part of, I don't want to say what you have to do, but it has to be part of what you have to be prepared for professionally if you want to be a reader. And it is often part of the problem. Like, because we've talked about, like, issues that advisors have. That's been a big part of the Psychic Coffee Shop. As well as some of the other shows that the Psychic Network has had, is talking about the real issues that advisors face. And with the networks especially coming in, and that's been a big part of how the networks have changed over, the last 20 years. at least the last like 5 to 10, is one, this is your own business.
Right.
Legally, we can't demand you do this, but we can nudge you very hard in that direction. And having to understand that what they're telling you is because, they have to word it carefully, because they are trying to tell you what you need to do without blurring the line that makes them your employer.
Right.
And that's a hard conversation to one have, like, to figure out, how do I say this? And I will gladly agree with anyone who says networks have struggled trying to get the words out. But then for someone who's not used to that kind of business dynamic, like, what are you talking about? Are you telling us to do this? Like, what are you even telling us to do? I don't understand. Like, what is going on? Why am I not getting clients? Why? Right. And to then have to set them down and go, look, what they can't say is this. What they're trying to say is exactly that. And the best way they can say it is this. And I know those two things don't have much in common.
Right. And then, the other side of that is sitting in those meetings when they're trying to decide these things, and it's like, there is no way a reader can do this ethically. Do you want ethical readings, or do you want a lot of chargebacks? Do you want to do this, or do you want to do that? Simple functionality of things. It's like, no, you're not getting a reader with 3,000 clients writing an email every day to every client that is personal to just that client. You want to gauge that back.
Yeah, like scale it back a bit. Because literally that was one of the pushes they were making, and they were pushing hard on it.
Right.
Until literally it got through to them that, like, because you tried to tell them, this like, really, that's not happening. Like, it can't happen. It is not a viable choice.
Right.
I can do something like that. I can't do what you're asking me to do, literally. And then when it went out to the rest of advisors, and they started kind of, like, we joke about it and call it penalizing them, which isn't really the case exactly.
And he freezes. Yes, it is penalizing. It is running the business as they're welcome back. It is forcing them. It is them trying to run a business and not understanding their product, which has been the biggest thing that I have to explain to people in board meetings that have just acquired a network, and they think they've bought, I don't know, a laundry service, a tech support service.
Well, here's the bigger thing, and what I think a lot of the customers aren't understanding, because I think customers get lost in this sometimes. Like, we talk a lot about the advisors, we talk a lot about the networks themselves, and what I don't think gets communicated enough to the customers, the clients, is what's actually going on within your psychic networks. Which is, one, there's like a couple of these networks have been on buying binges. Because what has happened is, back up 20 some years, you had a psychic network. It was a fully formed as a psychic network for advisors, for, with people who fully understood the industry, knew exactly what was going on. And they created a viable business. Well, that viable business got bought. And then it changed hands again. And then it went on a shopping spree and picked up a bunch of smaller networks and integrated them. And then it got sold a couple more times. And now it's been bought by, like, private equity firms who are trying to distill it all down to its most basic parts. And, like, so there's a vast valley between the 2 points now. Business side of the network and the actual functional network side of
Right.
advisors and clients.
Mm-hmm.
That lost in that valley is the understanding fully of the business. Y'all aren't making widgets.
No. Or cookies.
You're not providing hospitality.
Right.
It's an element of what you do, but you're not providing hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
You are not legally providing counseling services.
Mm-hmm.
But it becomes an element of what you need to know to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You're not providing financial advice, legally speaking,
Mm-hmm.
but it becomes a part of the conversation that you're having with clients.
Right.
It's at least an economic understanding of their lives.
Right.
And so when you take all these pieces together and what an actual experience is, because it does end up touching on all parts of their lives,
right.
And try to go back to the business side to explain it, they're like, what are you even talking about?
Right. Well, it's like when AT&T bought Keen and Night Flirts and Ingenio. Well, they bought the Ingenio company, and they bought it for the click-to-call service. That's the tool they thought they bought.
Yeah.
The problem is they wanted.
That's the part they wanted. And that's another bigger aspect of it is we talk about buying a network and you assume that, okay, well, that was a successful network. No, it wasn't. That's not why they got bought. For many of them, or for some of them at least, the network itself was never all that viable.
Right.
Like they didn't have enough clients, they didn't have enough advisors. The advisors they had weren't always the best quality, but they spent money on so much software.
Mm-hmm.
And they did amazing at it.
Right.
They got bought by, the private equity firm that owns this little collection of networks, or this big collection of networks, picked up this firm solely to gut it for the software and include it over. Or they were bought because they could be a threat.
Right. And then once they saw the profit that the network was making, they were like, I was in a meeting with the person in charge of the buying of AT&T, and he's like, I'm looking, and like, you guys are like, the network is making more than our cell service, but we don't understand how this works.
Yeah. And that's the hardest part of with the psychic networks is trying to communicate that. It's so nuanced. It's sort of like counseling, but it's not. Let's be clear. This isn't counseling. It is not a substitute for a therapist.
Right.
But there's an element of that.
Mm-hmm.
There's an element in which you have to be able to work with someone who's at the end of their rope and is just lost it.
Right.
Because their life situation has gotten so difficult, they don't know what's going on, they just caught their boyfriend cheating, whatever the situation is, you take that call, you don't know who you're getting. You might be getting someone who's very calm and just wants to know some things, or you're getting someone who is absolutely thermonuclear.
Well, or I'm getting I have lovely clients. I've seen I've had so many clients that I've seen meet the dude, marry the dude, get the job, build the house, bury the dude, not divorce him, bury him, and meet the next dude. I have lovely success clients, but that's because I hold to a very this is my business.
You had one that could basically be in the week.
I had one, my God, she was flying through life lessons faster than fucking hell, and I'm like, stop this. You're going to burn out.
Oh my God, that's two separate clients. Sorry. I remember there was... Okay, and let me clarify before anyone thinks I know all your business. I do not.
No, you don't.
I get very, data removed, instances of, you will not believe, I had a client who got married, realized she made a mistake, filed for divorce, and he overdosed this week. All in 1 week.
And closed on a house all in 1 week. This woman was moving like the speed of light.
Holy Jesus, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So, and that's the kind of data I get. I don't know who this woman is. If the story resonates with you, you may or may not be the client. I can't ever find you or identify you.
You could.
That's the kind of data I get.
Yeah.
Unless you tell your own story. But literally, that's the data I get. But one of your favorites was an older woman, and that's who I was actually talking about.
Yes.
Is that she had been your client forever.
She was one of my first.
That's what I mean.
First client.
One of the first clients. I think you met her. She was like 75 or something.
Yeah.
80.
No, so, like, she was 75. Okay. I met her. Let me tell you how long this client was my client. Okay, she was one of my first clients, and I remember our first call because I answered the phone and said, "Hi, this is Aeson extension 123. Thank you for calling the Psychic Friends Network. How may I assist you today?" I can say that line in my sleep, and she says, "Well, honey, I got to figure out what the hell to do. My husband just fucking passed away yesterday on me like a damn fool."
Oh. And then she went on.
Yeah, like we went on.
And she like what, remarried or started dating thereafter? Like I think
she never remarried.
Oh, she never remarried. Okay.
She never remarried, but she's like, I spent 40 years in a relationship and we've raised 2 children. I have a lovely home here. I also have a lovely home here. And I'm like, okay, well, we got to work through grief. And she's like, please, I didn't grieve him dying years ago. I was about to divorce him because he wouldn't, I think, go dancing, or I can't remember the specifics. But anyway, she was 92 years old. She had 4 steady boyfriends that she went line dancing with every week. She was running a business that her husband owned. She didn't even like the business. It was like a grocery store or something. And I talked to her.
Yeah, like this was the shift in like from 75 to 92. She's very happy, very active, had many boyfriends.
Right.
And like, because that was one you were telling me about, like, because you would see her pop in and y'all would have really long conversations.
Right.
And then, and it's one of those things, if you're not around on the backside of advisor calls, you don't necessarily understand. Like, it's almost easier for him to do like 25-minute readings back to back than to talk to one client for the same amount of time.
Right.
And so, like, he comes off of like the really long calls, and it's just kind of like, whew, it's like I ran a marathon. Yeah. And so you start asking questions in the early days, when you still care, because you don't know what it is. You don't know what the difference is. And so you ask questions, and then you get told things like, this is one of my oldest clients. She's hilarious. I love her. I want to be her. Like, this is my dream. Like, she's dating like 5 different dudes. She's, has more money than God.
Like, she shits of a fuck. Life. Yeah, and she'll it's like, is this one, is this dude going to do this? And it's like, yeah. And she's like, all right, shuffle them back up. I want to see what's going on with this one. Okay, shuffle them back up. So tell me how the store's going to go. And I'm like, well, you've got 2 employees you really don't like. And she's like, yeah, I know, but they've been there for God's creation. Are they going to die? I am not God. I do not appoint times of death.
But I wouldn't advise them to buy green bananas.
I don't even make that comment, but no. So I have long-term clients. I've been in this business, and recently everyone experienced an experience I'm used to, and it's like, well, shit, I guess I'll just have to find something else to do. Everyone got the TikTok closure,
which happens a lot. Like, and we're talking about social media and TikTok, but it happens a lot on networks.
Yeah.
And like, it's one of the biggest like newbie advisor things is having to explain to them in Dorothy Parker style, please don't put all your eggs in one bastard.
Yeah.
The networks come and go so quickly.
Right.
So quickly sometimes. That like you get hired, you're all excited, you start building up some clients, you start making decent money, and it's gone.
Yeah. And it's
In
like,
a month.
in a month. And then and then it's like, okay. And and at this point, I've got a formula. It's like, okay, you've closed, right. Normally they will tell us like a week or two before, and it's like, okay, you can, and it's like, hi, I'm transitioning my clients to this app. And it's normally the app that's bought them or the app that's handling them or whatever. And then there comes a social media post of, hi, clients from this platform. The latest one was what? The German platform, Terrapolis. Hello, clients from Terrapolis. Your platform is now closed. Please reach me at aesonknight.com, or you can use the following services available. And that is the hardest thing to get readers to understand is no, you can't depend on one network, one time, one exclusivity.
Yeah. Oh, and the exclusivity problems are abound. Because you do run into networks that still basically take ownership of you. Like if you come in as Ace and Knight, and you're a newbie little advisor, like, hi, I just got my certificate, the ink's still wet, try not to smudge it. If you come in and you sign this contract and don't necessarily know what you're reading, and you agree to it, they basically take ownership of your image, your name, and it becomes a registered trademark of that platform. Right. So God help you if you used your real name.
Right.
Like, that's problematic enough. We strongly advise advisors never do that. But even if you have a stage name, a whatever, a pseudonym that you go under,
right,
to do readings, you have to be very careful,
right,
because you may plunge your entire career in chaos, one way or the other, or you get stuck in this constant like cycle of like, you're new to this network, here's this new pseudonym, and you build a brand, you build a following, you get clients, you start being successful, and then that relationship sours for any number of reasons.
Right.
And then you find out they own that. They own that.
Right.
You signed away your rights to Ace and Knight. So now you have to, when you leave them, because for whatever reason, you now have to start all over with a new pseudonym, rebuild your clients, rebuild the base, rebuild everything.
Right.
And we've ran into the unfortunate experience where people do it repeatedly.
Right.
And it's like they're struggling for years. Right. And it's like, stop doing that.
Well, no, but do not go on to copyright. Own your copyright. I own my copyright. I own every bit of me. I own my image. That ain't for sale. I own my name. That ain't for sale. I have every legal document for me. And that's the thing that advisors do not get is they are a brand.
You own a business.
You own a business, but you also own a brand. Which is two different things, because and those are two separate things, and those are two things that aren't, you own a business, but you own a brand, and you have to enforce copyright. Like we've enforced copyright a number of times.
Well, yeah, and more importantly, been horrified at the ways that and it's especially funny when you're on their mailing list and then they send out, and this has happened more than once. Okay, guys? He has previously been part of a network. And of course, you have to upload a headshot, you have to upload, data and information and all this. The horror of he left the network for whatever reason, they didn't pay him. That's literally happened. They just don't pay you.
Right.
And that can be terms and conditions, which again, you can read those contracts carefully because some of them are crazy. And some of it is like a whole invented thing.
Right.
Of well, our government requires you fill out this form and you didn't get the form in, so we can't pay you this month, but we'll process your form, and then the form doesn't go through or whatever, on and on and on and on and on. It's a scam. It's
Right.
just a scam.
Right.
And it's hard to distinguish those. Anyway, he leaves the network and they start doing email blasts with his photo and his name and literally trying to get customers based off of that.
Right.
And it's sitting there going, are you flipping nuts? Like, he's no longer there. They cannot contact him there. Your platform does not contain him.
Right. So it's a phone call to Keith. Hey, Keith, you're going to, he's now just provided me a cease and desist letter. He's like, I don't need to write this every time. Let me know if they fail to behave.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, Keith. And all I do is give him a call, Keith, get ready to file paperwork because I'm sending a cease and desist letter.
Yeah.
And a takedown letter. Because I will take your website down. I have no problem crashing your system in the Google market. And he's like, not a problem.
Yeah.
Your retainer is due next year. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, because it's crazy. It's crazy to me. I can't imagine running a business. And I know that like mistakes happen.
Right.
Because when you're talking about like email blasts for large corporations, there's a lot of hands in that pot between, hiring advisors, managing advisors in the network and the system, and, creating a marketing plan, getting together a newsletter, getting it ready to go out to your people, deciding what the newsletter is going to be, creating graphics for it, all this. I understand that can be a lot of people in a larger company, like 100 employees or 50 employees that comprise a company. There can be a lot of hands in this, and sometimes information doesn't go from one side to the other of this equation.
Right.
Or of this process. But sometimes the adamantness they have that no, we're going to do it. Bonkers. Like, do you understand? You can't do that.
Right. And then when they get served, they're like, oh, we're so sorry. We didn't catch that. And it's like, do you want to try me again? And do you want to pay the fines and all that? Because I'll be happy to take you to court. And you can also pay Keith's bill.
And all of it boils down to you got an email, legal ad, or whatever your legal, or your general contact was, that someone had to forward and go, yeah, take him out. He is no longer here.
Right.
And send one more email, a nice little reply that goes, we're so sorry.
Right.
There was miscommunication. There was a lack of communication. We're so sorry. We have removed it. Thank you. Have a great day. That's all you had to do as a business. It would have taken you 5 minutes. Now you've had to be legally served.
Right.
Like, come on, guys.
Right. But no, for those that are wondering, like, there's Red Note. We've gone to Blue Sky. We are using Blue Sky. We've been on Instagram. And I'm trying to use Clapper. Like, I'm going to get used to using Clapper. YouTube Shorts don't work for my content. Point blank, they don't. So if you're looking for me, you can find me over at Blue Sky. Actually, any social media platform you're on, search Aeson Knight. I'm there. I'm there. I've been there. Heck, I've got an account on Music Box.
Yeah.
Yes, that is a social platform.
Yeah, and this is very important for advisors, and one of your biggest things with advisors is, and part of their brand identity is, like, get your name everywhere.
Right.
We don't mean you have to go in and post to Facebook, post to TikTok, post to Twitter, post to whatever.
Right.
We don't mean that. We mean own it, register the account, even if you never use it.
Right.
Get it before someone else does, because the amount of damage you can do to your business, to your brand, by letting the account not exist until someone goes through and goes, oh, Aeson Knight doesn't have a insert, whatever it is. I'll go on there. I'll grab that. I'll own that. And then I'll present myself as Aeson Knight, scraping his image off of some other page, Facebook or Twitter or whatever. And I will go through and get clients based on that brand. Like clients will, like he has some following. Surely he has some clients that are going to look for him elsewhere. I'll go through, produce a ton of content without myself being visible, and I'll grab those clients.
Right.
And literally, in some instances, all it takes is a couple to make some money.
Right.
Because, as we see often, sadly, may I point out, sadly, there are within any group of people a segment that is desperate,
right,
that is emotionally vulnerable, that can be manipulated heavily, and will take money from every place they can get it, thinking they can, listening to the advice of who they think they're talking to,
right,
or who they are legitimately talking to, that is demanding or creating a fear-based demand for large sums of money to do spells and do this and remove attachments, and then you have to pick them up later and go, I'm so sorry.
Right. Well, let's talk about attachments real fast, and then we'll, because I want to talk about this, the adults with ADHD living shorter lives than those with diagnosis study that came out. But attachments, you want rid of an attachment, go take a damn shower. You want a spell done, do your own research. You can go study spellcraft and do it yourself. It's only going to either blow up, mess up, or fuck up something. Take care of yourself and everything else kind of works itself out. Manifestation, take care of yourself and things vibrate out to you. I don't do attachments. I think they're bullshit. Cord cutting ceremonies are ridiculous at this point. I'm still trying to practically understand the microcosm and the metaphysical alignment with that, other than linked vibrations and removing that, which is basically go take a salt bath like they have done for centuries. This isn't hard. This isn't expensive. Our ancestors didn't care what type of salt you had. You don't need black salt, gold salt, yellow salt, purple salt. Salt is salt.
But pink Himalayan is best on food.
It's salt. It doesn't matter. It's like sage is sage is sage. It doesn't matter what sage you burn. It's sage. Is magic great? Yes, but you need to learn what you're doing and the effects and the ripple effects and the condensing ripple effects of it. It is the way it is. And we'll leave it all there. And I'm still looking for the $40,000 crystal, the $500,000 candle, and the what was it? The dirt from Jericho that would rapidly change your life. That was, I believe, $10,000. When y'all find those, let me know where I can buy them at, because I promise you they aren't out there.
Yeah, and don't mistake what he's saying. Well, we are not making fun of clients who have been manipulated,
right,
coerced,
right,
and ripped into someone else's scam.
Right.
Because the whole thing is objectively, we can all sit back and go, I can't believe someone fell for that.
Right.
The reality is, when you're not dealing with the psychological manipulation that goes on to get a client to that point.
Right.
And the problem with scams
is
the sheer practice they get from one person who doesn't believe it to the next person who starts to the next, to the next, to the next, to we have a system. Everything I need to say almost verbatim in a script to get someone to a point that you have psychologically attacked them.
Right.
In a repeatable way, psychologically attack them to an end result of they depart with as much money as they can afford. or give you their routing and account number so you can take as much money as will approve.
Right.
And that is the craziest part of it is objectively, if you start at the bullet points of what occurred,
right.
oh yeah, it's like, who falls for that?
Right.
You need to go through some of these because there are thankfully some of them that get recorded. That's all over, and not necessarily advisors, but the general scam thing gets recorded. There are videos on YouTube, totally worth watching, in the ways that someone psychologically manipulates someone to the point that they part with their money,
right.
and believe this, and they're wholeheartedly invested, and all the things that have occurred in that process. It is vicious.
Right.
Vicious. So okay, I did want to mention real quick, so because it was supposed to be our first article, there are 5 TikTok alternatives. They have some pros and cons, so we're looking at Forbes. There's Red Note, of course. That seems to be going over great with a lot of people that have left TikTok. Biggest drawback, you might want to learn some Mandarin because it is considered rude not to subtitle your videos spoken English into Mandarin. But otherwise, they're a really nice group of people who seem really, 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 really happy to help you learn Mandarin.
Right.
And share a bunch of information, and we can all be horrified at the differences in our worlds.
Right.
All right, so then there's Lemonade. So it is apparently really popular among people, at least a small group of people who love longer captions. But yeah, it's also potentially facing the same kind of scrutiny that TikTok had.
Right, and they shut down with TikTok, so they're included in that ban.
Oh no.
Yep.
So Instagram, we're all familiar with. We still kind of wonder why it hasn't taken off, other than the fact that it's owned by Meta, and well,
right, it's owned by Meta.
Yeah. Blue Sky, which, as he said, we're both on. YouTube Shorts, which I think was too little too late for YouTube. They kind of got us used to long form content, and then they decided they would glom on to the kind of TikTok threads popularity. It was a little bit too late.
Right.
So yeah. So if you're looking for a new home, there are some options. Make sure you research them, know what you're getting into.
Right.
All right. So adults with ADHD live shorter lives than those without a diagnosis, a new study finds. This is from NPR. A large new study finds adults diagnosed with ADHD live shorter lives than they should. The research published by the British Journal of Psychiatry found that men diagnosed with ADHD were dying roughly 7 years younger compared to their counterparts without a diagnosis of ADHD. Women with ADHD lived an average of about 9 years less. It is, quote, it is deeply concerning that some adults with diagnosed ADHD are living shorter lives than they should. Senior study author Josh Stott, a professor of aging and clinical psychology at University College London, said in a statement, ADHD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is a developmental disorder that is commonly diagnosed in childhood and causes inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. It often persists into adulthood. The study looked at primary care data for more than 30,000 adults diagnosed with ADHD in the UK. The researchers compared this group with more than 300,000 participants without ADHD who were matched by age, sex, and primary care practice. The researchers used mortality data to model what the death rate would be for adults with ADHD across the lifespan of the population. So yeah.
It's interesting, that it's a difference between diagnosed and non-diagnosed. It's also interesting that 7 years,
even diagnosed,
right?
Yeah. Well, because there's long been an idea that for people
Right.
who are undiagnosed, that
Mm-hmm.
some of the like impulsivity, compulsions, etc., may cause someone
Mm-hmm.
to meet an untimely demise.
Right.
That inattention to detail may cause them to get into situations
Mm-hmm.
in which they are harmed.
Right.
Not really a death by misadventure, but a misadventure due to the realities of their
Mm-hmm.
condition.
Right.
If you frequently walk away forgetting to turn off the stove, or you get
Mm-hmm.
distracted while boiling water, like things go wrong. Lots of
Right.
things can go wrong. And it is part of the, sometimes can be funny aspects of ADHD that are sometimes also very frightening and lead to some very dangerous situations.
Right.
So yeah, oh, butterfly right off the cliff.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, squirrel, and forget your cooking dinner.
Right.
Like these things happen, and sometimes they're funny. It is the sometimes hilarious part of being the partner of someone with ADD and ADHD is that you have to recognize that part of your partnership is trying to help them navigate their condition, and recognizing that there are things that you can't take for granted.
Right.
I cannot stress enough, I can't take for granted that if he cooks dinner, the stove is off.
Right.
Like, I do not do that, the house will burn down.
Right.
And it's not intentional. It's not a sign that he is intellectually inferior or any other thing you want to say. It is part of the condition
Mm-hmm.
that, like, without a checklist, and even with um the part of his brain drops steps.
Right.
And it's a simple step. It takes 1 second to turn off a stove.
Mm-hmm.
Should be the easiest step in the world, but it's sometimes little things like that will trip someone up.
Right.
Just this one little piece totally
Mm-hmm.
blows.
Right.
So you have to, as the partner of someone with the condition, or as a roommate, or as a family member, have to recognize that, like, don't assume
Right.
that vital, critical things totally got handled.
Right.
That, like, no, trust but verify. Trust but
Mm-hmm.
verify.
Right.
It's worth checking the stove is off. It's worth checking that, like, the like, I don't even assume at this point the car's not running. And that sounds horrible, but, like, if he has just had, like, a horrible experience,
Mm-hmm.
or he is busting at the seams to go to the bathroom,
Mm-hmm.
or something major is occurring,
Mm-hmm.
like, it is a vitally critical, important step to put the car in park and turn off the engine.
Mm-hmm.
His brain drops some very tiny things, tiny pieces. Like, the big pieces he can do all day long. It's the little tiny repetitive, like, this is so boring, why does anyone care? Little steps that will trip someone up.
Right.
And so, like, sometimes it's worth looking out the window and making sure the car's off.
Well, and sometimes, and the other part of there is to understand I have checklists. I check myself multiple times a day. We monitor my energy. My sleep is important. And if I'm getting sloppy sleep, or I'm not getting my physical activity, and I'm not on plan, on target, then I'm screwed. Like, there have been nights it's like, fuck it, I'm going to bed.
Yeah. If you get totally, like, ripped out of sync, like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it gets worse. Now, for you, the actual biggest one
Mm-hmm.
isn't leaving the car on. No. No. He turns the car off every time. The problem with Aeson,
Mm-hmm.
the thing you actually have to watch out for, sometimes he forgets to get out of the car.
Yeah.
Like, he will drive home, and he's been a
Mm-hmm.
good boy. He has not touched his phone. He has not done anything. But there's a moment, because
Right.
his phone was out, in which he saw a notification. And so before he got out of the car, he checked the notification, which then led him to read a thing. And then he watched a video. And then he ended up usually on TikTok watching like 15 other videos. And like, he's just sitting in the driveway.
Yeah.
Like the ice cream is melting in the back seat in the July heat. The car is off. The windows are up. He is sitting in the car scrolling TikTok.
Yep. And totally oblivious to what I've got to take care of.
Yeah. And then secondary problem to that, and a truly important one. And then he gets out of the car and comes in the house. His attention got shifted to his phone. Fuck the groceries. It's like 30 minutes later. Oh, fuck. Where's the groceries?
Yeah.
And it's like, are you serious right now? Are you serious right now? Like, and that was like an early relationship moment where it's like, oh my God. I have to, like, because these are things that you don't often get. And everyone's ADHD is different. Everyone's like trip ups are different. I'm just talking about like sometimes things are common, sometimes things are very specific to an individual, and that is his. He will like pick up his phone, and he's literally like he's got his keys in his hand. He's picked up his phone. He's laid down the keys. He is now scrolling TikTok. He has gotten totally invested in what he's doing. He has totally forgotten what he just did,
right?
And has come into the house. And his keys are sitting on the front seat. The groceries are in the back seat, having their own personal summer.
Hey, they're in cooling bags.
That's why we own cooling bags, can I point out? Like, we own, like, some things you have to work around, and that's one of them. Is like, I didn't get why he was so big into the cooling bags in the beginning. We are a half mile to the grocery store and a half mile back. You'd think, how could you forget you bought groceries? How much like problem could the groceries have? Plenty. Because he drove a half mile, grabbed his phone, getting out of the car,
got a message from a client,
got lost anywhere between 5 to 45 minutes, because it seems about 45 is when he's like, I need to go do something else. Like, he got all of his dopamine, now he needs to go somewhere else. And has stepped out of the car, totally forgot about the grocery store, has 15 ideas running through his head, all from TikTok videos or related to TikTok videos to whatever, has come in the house, has started doing something, and he's going to be anywhere from, so we have 5 to 45 minutes. He's going to be anywhere from like 5 to 2 hours before he goes to reach for something that he needs, that he just bought at the store, that checked off the list of, I need this from the store, and like opens the refrigerator going, where's the half and half? Fuck. This is why we own cooling bags.
Yes.
Saved our butts numerous times.
Right. But, you know, if I'm in plan and if I'm in focus and if I come home, I turn the car off, he doesn't like that I don't turn off the stereo, it's a step not on my checklist. It's actually better if the radio is on when I get in the car. It saves us so much amount of time.
It can.
I do my thing. I come home, I park, and if I don't get like a message from a client, a message from a friend, a text from a friend, a video share from a friend, which the incident he's talking about, I got a video of a situation. I checked the video, and then I'm like, okay, so let me go into deeper with this, because I remember this incident. This is when we were getting ready for one of our shows, and it's like, oh, well, I've got to do more research because we need to talk about this. And
it's, but it's so funny because to me, it's always, there's a little bit of humor to it. Is on one hand, he is capable of doing 9 different things at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
If he has chosen to do them. And they all give him dopamine, and they're all doing the thing. No one gets dopamine from bringing in the groceries ever. And that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Is non-dopamine producing activities,
Mm-hmm.
common, normal, daily parts of repetitive life.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do it. Can't
Right.
do it. Cannot remember or cannot keep up with the multiple things going on in that instance. This
Mm-hmm.
doesn't give me dopamine. It's gone. It's
Right.
useless to me. It's dead to me.
Right.
Gone.
Right.
And you sometimes have to really look at someone's life and go, what's going to give them dopamine? What is a totally repetitive, boring, stupid thing that they just have to do?
Mm-hmm.
And know when to like step in there and be like, did you bring in the groceries?
Yeah.
You know, like it sounds like the dumbest conversation on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but it has to, like, in your neurotypical brain, has to
Mm-hmm.
become part of a checklist. He went to the store. Did he bring in the groceries?
Right.
Like, as long as the freezer stuff's in the freezer, I don't care about the rest. As long
Right.
as the fridge stuff is in the fridge, I don't care about the rest.
Right. But
I
here's the
just don't
thing with
want
this and
melted
the
ice
things that
cream and
complicate.
biscuits.
Right. Is, the neurotypical has to know when to insert, because if the insert
yeah.
mid-process, what?
Uh-huh.
What groceries? Oh crap! I will lose appointments. I will lose every bit of the file that I was creating in my head, and it's like, well, I don't know what we're talking about on the show. Joe decided he would ask me where the groceries were while I was trying to research why the spaceship Atlantis is setting on a launch pad after 30 years.
Yeah, well, but it also becomes very important for him to leave tabs open. And I mean that in a literal sense. Like, do not
Mm-hmm.
close his browser.
Mm-hmm.
You do not know what you're doing, because sometimes that's his only reminder of something later.
Right.
Of what was I doing? Because it's a record scratch to pull him back into this non-dopamine activity he didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
Asking a question about, because everything else just fell away because, oh fuck, I fucked up.
Right.
It's like, honey, I don't really care. I just need a status update. Like, you went to the store. I don't see bags.
Mm-hmm.
Did you bring in the groceries?
Right.
Because I think I already know the answer to this question. And here's the wild part, is it's worse if I just go do it for him.
Yes.
That messes him up worse. He ends up sitting there like you rolled up a newspaper and hit the puppy with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, I cannot believe I forgot to do that.
Well, not only that, but it gets worse because there's a chain reaction, because the groceries did not arrive in the refrigerator. Therefore, they haven't been bought. This is why we have 10 jars of peanut butter, because someone keeps putting the peanut butter up.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is realizing that, like, I'm not lazy. I can gladly put away groceries. There's a few problems with that.
Yeah.
One, if he doesn't put away the groceries, he doesn't think he bought anything.
Right.
Like, it's a weird magical place. To try to understand some of the nuance, that if he doesn't put away the groceries, we don't have that.
Right.
We don't have whatever it is. And there can be a whole bunch of other things that happen there too, but somehow putting groceries away is a dopamine inducing activity that checks off items in his head, that we have this, we have that, we have this other thing, blah, 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 blah. More
Right.
importantly, he knows where it is. Please don't move it. It
Right.
doesn't have to make sense to me. The most recurrent conversation in our house is, where is the?
Mm-hmm.
Because I have permanently accepted nothing has a home.
Yes, it does.
House, no, it doesn't. This is a house full of homeless, transient objects that
Uh-huh.
can be moved and relocated at any time, normally while I'm asleep, but can be relocated at any time. Rooms do not have names, they have functions.
Yes.
This is what it currently functions as today.
Mm-hmm.
And that is subject to change years, months, weeks, minutes from now.
You will have to clarify the question a little bit more because there are multiple spices for multiple reasons. We have witchcraft spices, we have real spices, we have cooking spices, we have spices for spice blends.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. It's that's a whole separate subject. Is like I've given up on the idea. Like everything in the house is a transient hobo.
Yes.
Every object in this house is a transient hobo who could be anywhere. The kitchen shears that have a hole in the butcher block are never there. They have exciting nightlife.
Yes.
They go on excursions. It could be anywhere in this house or out.
Right.
You may not own them anymore.
Right. But no, I had to have this conversation with you because I'm like, we're out of steak cooking steak sauce. And he's like, there is no cooking steak. Huh? I'm like, there's a sauce that we buy for cooking. There's a sauce we buy for the table. There's a sauce we buy for marinade. None of the three are the same.
No. A1 for the table
Mm-hmm.
cooks with one other store brand, and then he has to go to a totally separate store for the marinade version of steak sauce that he likes.
Yes.
Because they are three different products.
Yes.
They are not interchangeable. He does not eat the marinade. He does not eat the cooking. In terms of if you hand him a steak and there's no A1, we have no steak sauce.
Yes.
And it's like, it's steak sauce. It's interchangeable. No, it's not.
No, it's not. Lean pairings to marinate.
That's right. Yeah.
Kroger steak sauce for cooking because it has a more vinegar taste to it. And then A1 for the table. And Heinz 57 doesn't exist.
No. He hates Heinz 57. That's not steak sauce.
Yeah. No. It's not even good enough for hamburger.
Oh, right. Yeah, there's that version. Oh, my God. And this is where I live. Like, y'all guys got to understand. I, like, as a neurotypical person, and I am boringly neurotypical, and it's a struggle, let me tell you, to get in the mindset that, like, you're not going to change this about him. You're not going to, and I think that's a problem that neurotypical people have always had, is you think you're going to beat it out of him. You think you're going to talk it out of him. You think you're going to train it out of him. That doesn't work. You just kind of have to adapt to it.
Mm-hmm.
He does not have steak sauce frequently.
Mm-hmm.
I always have steak sauce. I'm perfectly capable of going, I'll move over this direction. Like, we have Lee and parents. I'm happy.
It's cool. Too thin.
I don't care what your problem is. I'm eating my steak with Lee and parents instead of A1, and it doesn't bother me.
Again, these are idiosyncrasies of me, but these are programmed behaviors that are left over from the restaurant, that are left over from everything else. Like, every experience builds a file, and the file creates a checklist, and checklist creates everything else.
Okay, Brenda, with all the kindness I can muster, and please take this as love. The fuck are you doing trying to tell him about more sauces? We do not need the good word to hear the good word door to door about more sauces for our refrigerator. Do you understand the sauces have bins and take up the entire top shelf? Nothing but sauces. Different mustards, different steak sauces, different mayonnaises, different mustards. We have all the sauces that exist as far as he knows and needs to know. Do you understand?
I will look into it, Brenda.
Damn it.
Okay. But the top shelf is very organized when I organize it. I have a bin that has all my Asian sauces in it. I have a bin for all my Thai sauces. I have a bin for sandwiches. I have a bin for general food salads.
Mm-hmm. Now, what he doesn't say, and the reason it has to constantly be organized, is because he will pull stuff out and then puts it back.
Mm-hmm.
And it can end up anywhere. Because putting things away is not a dopamine increasing activity. Cooking a meal, creating a meal, very dopamine releasing. Cleaning up after himself, putting things away, does nothing for him. So he just kind of chunks it.
Right.
In the general direction of a bin.
It's getting better. Once I get my labeler out, which I haven't been able to find someone that's hidden my labeler, it'll be much easier.
Yeah. The person who has hidden your labeler, his first name begins with A, his last name begins with K, and it's wherever he last used it.
The last time it was used was when it went with someone named with a J, ending with an A, took it for a job.
Oh, then it may still be in the bag from the last time I used it. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Again, we'll sort it out, or I'll buy another one. All right.
But no, it's fun moments.
It's fun moments, and I find it interesting. Like, there's been some recent studies coming out of France that ADA and smoking actually calms ADA, ADHD. There's a large medical study on that. They also find that patients with ADHD do not tend to have the same side effects as for smoking, which is even more weirder because they've been preaching this for like 40, since the 40s. And it's like, why does this not occur in you?
Yeah. I think smoking was my only conspiracy theory, I swear to God. I honestly, in some cases, think that smoking was a convenient scapegoat for a bunch of things that were effed up at certain points in time that were common products. And we just happened to see a massive spike. Because if you look carefully at plastics and the age of plastic, you see a massive bump in the number of people with cancer. That's just me. I don't expect to create a following with that. I expect many people to argue I'm wrong. I'm just saying there was a lot of smoking before the age of plastic in which most people did not have problems, and it was a very minor issue. We enter the age of plastic, the problem balloons, and everyone suddenly has cancer. Then we start tapering into the age of plastic's bad, go to glass, go to anything but plastic. We start seeing some tapering. I'm just saying.
Well, Operation Paperclip and all that. All right, so let's find out if you're really an asshole this week.
Oh, okay. Am I the asshole for charging my brother rent to stay in my guest room, even though he's struggling financially? So my 28 female, younger brother, 24 male, recently moved in with me because he lost his job and couldn't afford his apartment anymore. I have a decently sized house with a guest room, and so I initially told him he could stay for a couple of months while he got back on his feet. However, I made it clear that I expected him to contribute financially once he found work. He's now been here for he's been here for 3 months now, and while he's applied to some jobs, he spends most of his time playing video games and hanging out with friends. I told him I was going to start charging him $300 a month in rent starting next month, whether or not he has a job, because I feel like he's taking advantage of me. He got really upset, and I said I was being heartless since he's struggling, and I, quote, don't need the money. My parents are also on his side and said it's wrong to profit off family in a tough time. I do have a stable job and don't need the money, but I feel like he should be held accountable instead of freeloading. Am I the asshole?
Nope. But anyway, she gave a statement.
Oh, there's more?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you're...
I think I might be an asshole, especially since my whole family is against me. But I really want to know what others think. It is my house, after all, that I pay with my own money, so it doesn't seem fair that someone should be using it without contributing, even if it's my family. He is obviously trying to find work. It's been a different story, but it doesn't feel like that's the case.
I'm going to go with you're the asshole, and here's why. It might be a little controversial. I think you didn't think this through in the beginning. And you're like, sure, come stay. I'll help. Don't worry about it. When you get a job, pay me some money. And you had an expectation that of what this would look like. I think when it became not that, you needed to ask your guest to leave. Like, somewhere else, go move in with mom and dad, go do something different. This isn't what I signed up for. Instead, you're trying to change the terms that you gave him. And you're trying to manipulate behavior because you have an expectation of what he ought to be doing. And I personally don't find that appropriate interaction with adults. Like, I think in this instance, you ask your guest, because that's how this started, to leave. Instead of trying to change the terms of the agreement, because ultimately that's not going to work well.
Right.
You should have thought it through. You should have created better expectations from the beginning. You gave him an exploitable situation. And while I don't think it's appropriate that he did exploit it,
right,
you set that up yourself.
Right.
So at that point, you need to ask your guest to leave.
Right.
That, look, I thought this would be a couple of months. It's not been a couple of months. Or at least open the conversation with that so that he can make counter offers. Like, look, I don't want to do that. Here's what, I'm willing to pay rent, instead of trying to force it.
Right.
Like, so ultimately, I find you the asshole because you set an expectation and now you want to switch horses midstream.
Right.
I don't think your idea or request is unreasonable. I think the way you're going about it is all wrong.
Right.
All right.
Right. So I think that he's the asshole for taking advantage. And yes, the water increases, the power increases, and it's more than $300. The food bill increases, so I'm sure he's not buying his own food. Things that you don't even think increase. Yeah. Oh, I like this one.
Oh, tell the family that thinks that he shouldn't pay rent to let him stay with them.
Right.
If she said a number of months, like 3, give him those free. After that, pay or move.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's the better way to approach the topic. Is because ultimately you created a guest situation that you didn't think your way into.
Right.
And now you're having the knee-jerk reaction of, this isn't what I wanted or expected. It really needs to be, we have to renegotiate this, not just dropping demands of, you're going to do this.
Right.
Because you're going to create an adversarial situation.
Right.
I'm sorry you didn't get what you want. This is part of the learning of your 20s.
Right.
You've got to be clear and upfront with people to get what you want.
Right.
All right. So moving over to gay polyamory, I'm trying to build a poly family. Any advice? Hello, everyone, and Happy New Year. I'm from Brazil, so I apologize for any misspelling. I'm 28 male, and my boyfriend, 24 male, are in an open relationship of 2 years, and we've been with each other and other people since the start. And it's been amazing. We are always together at the weekends, and sometimes we hang out with other people, both together and separately. But nothing serious, just casual. Now that we are 100% sure we'll be together no matter what, we are trying to have more boyfriends. Last year, we dated a guy for 3 months, but unfortunately, he didn't want a relationship, so we stopped hanging out. Since it's the first time we were going all in on this polyamory thing, I figured I could ask for some advice here. Our goal is to have a relationship that everyone is dating everyone and living together if possible. We appreciate any advice. Thank you.
Overall, don't try to sculpt it. Let it happen naturally.
Yeah, I think being open to the possibility is far more important than trying to make it happen. And I think that's where a lot of
Right.
polyamory can blow up.
Right.
Because ultimately you're looking for a unicorn.
Right.
You may not actually be doing that in the worst version of it, of unicorn hunting, but you're looking for someone who one wants this too.
Right.
Two, gets along with both of you equally and has equal feelings.
Right.
Three, wants to live together with someone, with others. It's a big ask. It's a big ask. Be open to the possibility. Be welcoming of others. Don't necessarily expect that's gonna be something you're gonna go out and find.
Exactly. And the other part of that is don't expect it to just happen. Like, it needs to just happen. Like, I'll be honest, I was not looking for another partner when I met Techie. He was not looking for a partner at all when he met me.
Not at all. But both of us were not totally opposed to the idea.
No.
Like there's subtle nuance and difference there.
Right.
I'm not looking for a relationship is not the same thing as I don't want a relationship at all, ever, with anyone, period. I'm not looking for another partner. Is not the same as I don't ever want another partner. To like 1, 2, 3, whatever the number is all I want. I'm done.
Right.
Like, those are two very different mindsets from each other. Of I'm not looking for a relationship, and I'm not looking for another partner.
Right. Because I was like, no, don't need partners. Not looking for a permanent partner. No, I have my life. Fun comes by, that's cute. Dates come by, I love a good dinner. I wasn't looking for one, and it's like, oh, well, you're here.
Yeah. And I think that's a large part of the problem in monogamy and polyamory, regardless of what your desired relationship is trying to make it.
Right.
When you're actively searching for a partner, when you're actively searching to add a partner, when you're actively trying to find a person to fit,
right.
It'll become daunting.
Right.
Because you're not going in and just having fun and seeing what happens.
Right.
You're being far more critical of them.
Right.
And you're constantly going, can I live with this for 30 years? Can I live with that for 30 years? Can I live with it? People change, okay? Not totally.
Right.
But, things change. Who we are when we're single, not necessarily who we are with others. And not everything is something that you really have to lock onto. Like, and technically, you can get over a lot.
Right.
You can get past a lot.
Right.
You really can.
Right.
You may talk about it forever later because it was never something you personally liked about them.
Right.
And I get that, and I think that's fair. But ultimately,
right.
We all have to compromise a little here.
Right.
But if you're sitting there going on the first date and like, you know, he chews with his mouth open and it's like, can I deal with that for 40 years, 30 years, 20 years, 100 years? You're going to sabotage.
Yeah.
You're going to, nope, can't deal with that.
Right.
Nope, don't want that.
Right.
Nope, not what I want.
Right.
And it's like, okay, but really?
Yeah. And, you know, can you put up with it? What's the cost of admission? Granted, your cost of admission has went up over the ages. Like, sorry, it has.
What? I'm high value property. Property goes up in value. Like,
no, I'm talking about me.
Oh, yeah. You're still saying that I'm like peanuts over here?
No, you're not peanuts or chopped liver, which you equate yourself to both.
Plastic houseplant, most commonly.
Yeah, whatever. More like Russian tulips.
Hard to find and very pretty. You know.
Very pretty, somewhat interesting to import, requires a diverse soil, and maintaining foliage is completely counterproductive.
And despite all evidence to the contrary, can become a total raging bitch at any moment.
Yes. but see, and that's like, people find moments that like make their relationship and tell them their relationship is going to last forever. Mine is not this sweet, loving moment.
Like, Joe's lovable. Everyone loves Joe, and it's like, y'all got us backwards, is all I can say. Is y'all got us backwards. I very much have a beautiful, fluffy candy coating. Like, I just look like the fluffiest, huggable little thing. Don't piss me off. It takes a lot to do that. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm sitting over here with hair trigger. Don't piss me off. Like, you play fair and reasonably, I'll play fair and reasonably. Now, Aeson is all over here with the spiky geode of diamonds around him. And everyone's like, oh, God, don't mess with Aeson. Don't mess with Aeson. Okay, that layer is like a millimeter thick, okay? He is a giant goober inside of nothing but caramel and will melt in your mouth because, like, this is a protective outer layer and it's a millimeter thick. Protective outer geode layer of diamond because the innards are nothing but goo. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to drill far to get through. I, on the other hand, everyone's like, he's so adorable. He's so sweet. He's so kind. He's whatever. And it's like, and then all of a sudden they get shocked and horrified when it's like, oh no, now you done pissed me off. Like, no. My innards are his outards. Like, my center is a giant core of rock solid diamonds. I will eat you for lunch. I will destroy you.
And then I will destroy you and burn you at the same time. But no, that we can make it moment is the fight we had on the porch.
Over the tree?
Yep. You can actually fight with me.
And well. Oh yeah, he is a lot to the like, it's a very actually useful protective layer, and it thwarts most people. But at the point in which he's ready to give up and is turned to goo because you punctured through, I show up and you've gotten through all my fluffiness. And it's like, no, honey, you go sit down. I got this. Because it's like, no, now you're dealing with me. Like, he's exited the situation because he's an emotional train wreck. You have gone through his protective layers. I'm over here going, you just got through all the fluff. So now you're in my wheelhouse, bitch. That's how this works. Because it's like, no, you can only go so far with him and then it's over. I'm ready to go.
Uh-huh.
You're not getting through me.
Right.
Like, it's adorable. You think you can try. All have failed.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be fun.
Yeah. But no, we go head to head. The argument is not good. Like, we don't fight nice. We don't hold back. And it's like, fuck you, fuck this, pack your shit, go on.
Yep. Like, and it's so funny because it does sometimes remind me so much of, like, when I was in kindergarten. This girl and I, in 2 separate kindergarten classes, but we had the same recess, she used to, like, yell and scream and punch me and, like, just treat me like garbage.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I defend myself. I'm totally cool with that. I'm not hitting a girl. I can take a lot.
Right.
And, you know, it's fine. It's fine. Our kindergarten teachers were scared to death because they're afraid one day I'm going to snap and we're going to hurt each other. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, we're both looking at them and we're like, are you stupid? Like, we're friends. We're cool.
Right.
She knows how much she can get away with. I know how much I can get away with.
Right.
And that's appropriate because I was a huge kindergartner. Like, I was a 100-pound kindergartner.
Right.
I know that I can hurt her. She knows I can hurt her.
Mm-hmm.
She knows when to stop. She knows when it's too much.
Mm-hmm.
She's not going to go past that point. I'm fine over here.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? And like, I'm going to pull her hair. Like, that's it. That's the worst thing that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's her stop now.
Right.
You're done.
Right.
And we're still friends. All these years later.
Yeah.
Like, we're still friends. We're like, and we cannot say a nice word to each other. She knows what I'm thinking before it doesn't even have to leave my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
It literally is that situation. God knows she calls me crying. I'm running. Like, there's no stopping me.
Right.
Like, I will take care of whatever problem she has. I also know she's tough enough not to really have that many problems.
Well,
but
yeah.
that was part of, like, the exchange, is her finding out, like, how strong she was.
Right.
And that, like, no, she can stop people. Like, she has beat kids up.
Mm-hmm.
Do not mess with her.
Right. Awesome.
And she's a very tiny little girl. Even today, she's tiny.
Mm-hmm.
It's hilarious. I want to say yes, Maria, if it's a general question.
Yeah.
All right. So while we're waiting on that, I guess let's go check the poll.
Ooh, y'all got salty but agree.
Okay.
No, you are not the asshole.
Ooh. All right.
All right. Yes, collect that rent money. Let them know the exact expenses that are occurring so they can physically understand, like, oh, crap. Like, no, having another human does cost more.
Oh, Brenda, I'm not writing off the short girls. I'm just saying that when you have a 100-pound kindergartner versus like a 30-pound kindergartner, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, like, you're not hurting the 100-pounder unless you go to some very specific points that she never hit.
Maria, we addressed this the last show.
Yeah.
We addressed this the last show.
Mm-hmm.
You, A, don't want to provide me a birth date, so legally I can't read you.
Mm-hmm.
B, we talked about your need to not have readings because you need to start working on yourself. C, I will recommend the book More Love, Less Conflict.
Always important. Always a good general.
Yes.
We wish more, like, honestly, if we won the lottery and had the money, we would buy everyone a copy of that book.
Right.
Like, we would sell it out. Bestseller list in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Because we would literally be airdropping it just all over the world.
Right.
Because it helps a lot.
Well, and design a curriculum to teach people in high school how to communicate.
Mm-hmm. And sorry, Maria, that's kind of my fault. I thought you might have had a question about what we were talking about or what we were saying.
Right.
We're really encouraging you not to get readings.
Right.
And I should have made that more clear.
Right.
Like,
All right. Yeah. All right. So with that overall, you're not the asshole this week. We do have patrons to thank.
We do. So, of course, we want to thank Beverly Walker, Mika G, Brenda, Joan Owen, Shannon C, Shannon D, Lady Gwendolyn, Caitlin Bell, Devin, and Bella. If you'd like to learn more about us, the show, or how you too can become a Patreon sponsor and receive all the wonderful benefits our baristas receive,
Right.
please visit us at pcspnetwork.com.
Right. All right, guys. You have a great evening.
Night.